Hey, I'm Joel Wanasek. I'm a pro mixer and co-founder of NailTheMix.com, the coolest place to learn how to mix rock and metal music on the entire internet. And today I'm going to break down one of my personal favorite mixes of all time, which is the song Tell Me by the band Story of the Year off the record The Black Swan. This is mixed by Michael Elvis Baskette. Love this mix. One of my personal favorite references. I'm going to react to it and break it down. So let's dive in. I love the build up of the marching snares, the tension, you know, it's really, really well mixed. The guitar sounds great on the right side, very mid-range guitar. Got a little flanger on it on the left side. It's going to explode. Here we go. Damn, that hits. I just love this mix. Okay, the first thing that stands out to me, listen to the bottom end of the bass guitar. It's just crushing. To me, this mix is like 75% bass. Listen to how loud it is in comparison to the drums and the guitar. All right, so this to me is like a classic example of a bass that I feel like is placed a little bit below the kick. The kick drum doesn't have a ton of sub in it, so listen to the kick sub and bass sub relationship. You know, the kick is not like doom on the bottom end. It's just tight, punchy, snappy, and you just have this massive bottom end that extends all the way down. So having that amount of bass and having the kick drum kind of be secondary to just really loud bass guitar really makes this mix sound massive. I mean, to me, that's like one of the hallmarks of a massive sounding mix is like you listen to it and you're like, wow, these guitars sound huge. Wow, this mix sounds massive. And the reason it sounds massive is because the bass is just cranked. So pay attention to that relationship. All right, so guitars. Listen to the bass and guitar relationship now here. This is kind of interesting because the guitars are very mid-rangey in like the 1 to 2K range, right? There's not a ton of bottom end in the guitars here. The drums aren't super thick. I mean, they're there, but this is mixed very guitar and bass forward, but the guitars are kind of scooped out on the bottom end and have a lot of upper mid-range, you know, like you can really start hearing the mid-range somewhere like, I want to say 700, 800, 900 hertz, you know, is when you really, really, really become super audible. Call it like a guitar bass sandwich, you know, where it's kind of like the guitars are part of the bass. The top end of the guitar, top end of the bass extends into the top end of the guitar, and it just forms like one unique massive continuum. You hear how the attack of the bass and the guitar just complement each other? Sounds crushing. All right, now you can really hear what's going on with the drum sounds here. You'll notice that the kick drum actually has a ton of room on it. Listen to the room and the kick sound. You hear it in there? You got to really listen on good speakers. But it's got a lot of mid-range to it. And the kick ambience matches the snare ambience. You know, there's a lot of mid-range room, but it's not very scooped. The drums don't have a ton of bottom end. They're not super bright, but they're very punchy, very heavily compressed. And there's that room sample, and that just makes everything glue so nicely into the overheads. And it just sounds really, really good. This is pan drummer perspective, so the hi-hat's on the left. So listen to the cymbal kick snare relationship. Cymbals in the overheads, rooms, etc. They're mixed in a way where it's very, very continuous. Like the kick and snare are not super loud above where they sound disconnected, but the cymbals are slightly above the kick and snare, and it just makes for a really nice drum image because it's like, you know, it feels like a kit, even though it's like a larger than life kit. You know, a lot of modern mixes, sometimes people try to blow out their kick and snares so much to make it sound so aggressive. The cymbals kind of come down and the drums sometimes feel like they're in space, if that makes sense. Like the kick and snare samples are just floating super loud and then the cymbals are down. So what I like about the way that this is mixed, the cymbals are just very loud and the kit sound is just so cohesive in terms of the mid range of it, you know, the top end of it. It's very, very, very good. All right, let's check out these vocals here. And I love how much mid-range is on that singing. You know, it's not very bright. Again, like the guitar is sitting there, you know, in that upper mid, and the vocals are kind of just like 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, they're not super bright. They have a lot of mid-range, a lot of 2 to 3K in them. but they're not harsh. You know what I mean? They're just up there, and it's a really nice spot. It's definitely mixed vocal up. It's kind of like vocal, hi-hat, shells, guitar. You know what I mean? Like the way the positioning came in is a balanced positioning is in the beginning of the song, you know, it started kind of guitar and bass up, and then it kind of, that stuff backs off a little bit. We've got more vocals and drums to create a nice sectional dynamic. Oh, there's nothing different now because this heart is true. And I like the subtle delay on the vocals. Listen to that. It's very, very, very well tucked in there. It's very mid-range. It's, again, just like the vocals aren't too bright. You'll notice the mid-range of the delay is kind of in the similar thing. And this is an important concept when you're mixing, is to be able to take your ambiences and make sure that they match. So everything sounds like it's in the same room. Because the drum room is very mid-rangey, you know, the guitars have a very mid-rangey, you know, everything has a lot of mid-range to it. The vocal delay was like super scooped or super bright or something like that. It wouldn't gel with the rest of the mix. So Mixer's done a fantastic job of making that happen. So listen carefully to the delay. You can really hear it if you listen subtly in between the words. It's there. It's very tucked. You got to listen very, very carefully, but it's very, very well placed because it creates just the right amount of ambience. And I love how that just opens up on the chorus. Those guitars come up and it just sounds massive. Mix is very vocal up, which I like, you know, because you can hear everything. And I like how the vocal sits amongst everything else in the mix, because the whole mix is very compressed, but the vocals don't sound like they're pumping the bus compressors or anything like that. They're very, very well placed in EQ. What a sick guitar tone. It's just so good. Little bell yell scream on the I like the background accents. You know, this is kind of a very simple, straightforward song in terms of the amount of elements and production, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like less is more. You know, you get such a massive sound when you're not layering 4 million tracks of just bullshit in a mix. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the reasons this mix sounds so huge, is just the simplicity of the production. You know, you got guitars, you've got vocal, you don't have like 30 layers of guitars, you've got bass, drums. You know, it's not like you're blending in all this crazy stuff we do in the modern era with all, you know, where every session's got to have like 150 tracks. This is just so massive because of the simplicity of it. You know, it sounds fantastic. Little fade up guitar thing there. Here we got the high lead guitar octave kind of thing in there that's buried. It's not very loud, but just enough to kind of make it pop and be like, oh, it's the chorus. I love how the top end balance of the mix, like frequency wise, it's just like guitars and the hi-hat are just super loud. You know what I mean? Like they really, really carry the energy here. And the drums are almost kind of secondary, but the drums sound massive. You know, they really, really push this mix. Everything's all right. Everything's all right. Little gang vocal action there. I like how those are blended in. I'm always a fan of gang vocals. I mean, like, let's be honest, when you're in the studio, it's the coolest thing to cut is when you get a bunch of people in the room and just screaming into a mic and layer it 30 times. We all love doing gang vocals. So I love hearing them on records, blended in very nicely, kind of under the main vocal for support there. All right, let's take a look at this bridge section. All right, so the kick drum here is noticeably less aggressive in the kick sample. You know what I mean? You can really hear the room on the kick. Listen to it. We've got some crazy like flanger right left thing going on in the vocals that kind of gives that inaudible tension. It's hard to hear what he's saying. Love the vocal delay on the main voice. It's very similar to the tone of the vocal, like that effect that comes before it. Listen to that. I like the clean guitar tone here. It's really good. Bass came way down here. There's a lot of guitar mid-range. You know, the cleans are kind of thick. There's definitely a couple layers going on. This is getting a little bit more dense. So I like how that's been prioritized, where the rest of the mix is this massive crushing bass guitar, and here they kind of just take it back. Then when it comes in right there, it hits really hard with that big bass guitar combo. My favorite part of the song. I love the lo-fi, slightly distorted, saturated piano. It's so badass. Tell me that I'm not all alone. Got that little loop in the background. See, this is a great production choice and a great dynamic. I just love lo-fi distorted piano. Ever since I heard this the first time, I started throwing this in a lot of songs I was doing in production. It's just a cool dynamic, you know, it's like you come out of that rockin' part and they just hit this crunchy piano. Tell me that I'm not all alone. The loop on the left side. And everything's all right, so tell me. And with the very subtle bass drop on that downbeat, it hits. What a badass mix. I mean, damn. I've always loved this mix. It's always personally been on my reference reel. I'd highly recommend you throw it on yours if you mix music and make music. It's an older song, but in my opinion, still one of the best mixes. The fact that, you know, some of these older mixes still hold up today, and some of them actually just kick the crap out of a lot of the stuff you'll hear in active rock in terms of like the sonics and the energy and the size and the bottom end, you know, and the way it feels coming out of a set of speakers. It's really, really, really inspiring to listen to some of these old mixes because you can really, really learn a lot. And, you know, they just have a certain energy to them that I think gets lost sometimes when we're mixing in the box. So I gotta say, this mix is fantastic. I love it. Please let me know what you think of this mix here in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. It's at Joel Wanasek. Very easy to find. I'm always dropping all kinds of cool mixing content. As always, if you want to learn how to mix stuff like this, you check out nailthemix.com. Thank you so much for watching. And please, if you enjoy this, click like, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. We'll see you next time.